I am going to make Chinese fried breadstick. This recipe I'll be using not just the yeast. I'll be adding in I cannot find ammonia anywhere, so I'm putting in the dry baking powder. What I have here, 2 cups of warm water. ที่พาเฮ็ดปลาตังโกสูตรที่ว่าใส่ dry baking powder ผงฟูแห้งเพราะว่าเขาซอกแป้งเหม็นบ่ได้อยู่อเมริกามันซอกแป้งเหม็นยากมันบ่มี 2 teaspoons of dry yeast and what I have here is this is the dry baking powder, but I add a water here to dissolve it because it's not it come in like it's like sugar, so I have to try to melt it first, otherwise it's gonna take a long time for us to melt it. So I had 1 tablespoon of the dry baking powder and 1 tablespoon of warm water in here. I'm gonna put it together with the yeast. One tablespoon of dry baking powder, 2 teaspoons of yeast, and then I'm adding sugar too. Three tablespoons. Three tablespoons of white sugar. I'm gonna have to stir it, make sure everything is mixed up well. เราต้องคนให้มันแตกเพราะไม่อยากให้มันเป็นก้อนคนยี่เราต้องให้แป้งผงแป้งฟูให้มันเปื่อยเพราะมันเป็นเม็ดด้วยตัวนี้นะตัว dry เนี่ยนะได้ละ and then I'm adding 1 teaspoon of vegetable oil. I'm gonna let it sit. If you have time, you let it sit, let the yeast rise for at least 2-3 minutes. You want to see a little bit bubble up here. And what I have here is 4 cups of self-rising flour. I'm using this brand today. I ran out of the Walmart kind. I'm using the Kroger kind. Any self-rising is good, so it's no different. The most important part is your yeast has to be new. Make sure it's not too old. And my yeast, this is what I use. You can use any dry yeast. Just make sure you use your warm water. I'm putting my 4 cups of flour here, self-rising. I'm gonna need my hand to massage the dough, to knead the dough. Now that it starts bubbling up a little bit, I know I don't have that much time, so I'm gonna pour it in here. Mix it up. You see I'm not adding any salt in here because all the self-rising flour, they already have salt in here already and a little bit of baking powder. So I'm not gonna add those stuff in. But if you use the all-purpose flour, you have to put a little bit of salt so it has like a kick into it. To add more flavor. Time for my hand to go in now. Nice and clean. I washed them with soap. Okay. You have to keep kneading them until it's become tough to knead. It's gonna feel like a pizza dough. And then we have to let it sit. I'm gonna leave mine inside my oven because it's nice and humid over there. And I'm gonna turn on the light, the oven light, not the heat. Cover this bowl up with aluminum foil. Let it sit for 3 hours. If you can do 4 hours, that would be good. The reason we cover up the bowl with the aluminum foil because you don't want air in there. You don't want the dough to dry out. This recipe is gonna be a lot more crispier than the other recipe that I use the yeast only. It's still gonna be soft in the inside, crispy from the outside. It's just more crispy on the outside. You know, in America, I hear some people, they don't like to use the ammonia, but to me, I think if you know the amount to put in, it's good. Most of the time is people don't know how much to put on and they just throw it in. That's why it's not good for them. It's not like you're gonna eat it every day, you know what I mean? But this recipe, I use the dry yeast, not the dry yeast and the dry baking powder, because I cannot find any ammonia by so we just have to go with what we got. Okay, now I think it's so far so good. You see when you pick it up, it's like elastic. It's not falling apart. That means it's good now. I'm gonna cover them up and put it inside my oven. Let it sit for 3 hours. And then I'm gonna take it out and put it on my cutting board. Flip it upside down, just like how I do the yeet, the last recipe. And then let it sit on the cutting board for at least an hour before I start deep fry, okay? I'll come back to show you when I start to deep fry them. Thank you.